The weather, well, in a way, what do you need to say more about the weather today? I mean, it's perfect. You know, you need, I mean, I'm a bit of a thing about weather. I mean, I love to know what the weather's going to be like. But the weather you need to think about, particularly if you are going out for the day, any time in Scotland at this time of the year, if you're going out, even down the Glen at Sliggerkin or somewhere, and you're getting a big walk down there, for heaven's sake, think about the weather before you go. Or, you know, down your end of the island, up the point up there, you know, it's very different in winter. And it doesn't do to get too cold, so you need to explore the weather. You know, I've had a couple of, well, I've had more than a couple of experiences, but I had one near Killing in Ben Lawes. A very experienced friend of mine, Eric and I went out there in the middle of winter, and it was thick snow, and he had a four-wheel drive, so we got up and we were doing a circular walk, and we got well into the place, up the so-called tourist route, and it was just extreme conditions, so we probably shouldn't have been out there. But we were well equipped, but what Eric forgot to do was we didn't put our crampons on, walking crampons on early enough, and it was about -30 in the wind chill, and he actually I had to get us down off the hill, off the so-called tourist route. So when people on Ben Nevis talk about the tourist route, do not believe it. There is no such thing as a tourist route on Ben Nevis or any other mountain. Ben Lawes is a very good example. It's a very popular one as well. And there was nobody else around. And these were the boots I was wearing at the time. They look in good nick, don't they, actually? These were actually the last pair of boots I bought for, I think I was wearing these, it might have been their predecessors. But these are what's called three-season boots. And the reason they're called that is they don't bend all that much. They're not four-season, which don't bend at all. So this has got quite a bit of bend. And I've worn these throughout, these style of boots and this sort of quality, throughout. These are Mindel boots, brilliantly engineered and all the rest of it. And it's taken me all around the place. But you can then put your walking crampons on here. I'll just do a little aside if I can find them. Can I find them? Where have I put them? Oh, so these are, I just thought you might be interested, you might not have seen any crampons before. But these are actually my walking crampons. And I won't put them on, it would take too much time. But these, I'm not a climber, by the way. You know, I call myself a mountaineer within reason. But these would fit onto those boots, and these are walking crampons. So it's rather like when people walk, you know, in walking, cross-country skis and that sort of thing. But these are walking crampons, and these have seen me right around the Dolomites, the Alps, and various other places, and the Pyrenees. And these just slot on to these both, to these type of boots. And actually, that shows you these are the ones I use because they're still adjusted. And this is perfect in snow conditions. And this is an aside because I know that's not what you're bothered about today. But you know, these have seen me well, and the difference it makes is. So I put the gloves on much quicker than Eric had, and he had circulation problems. So anyway, we got there and it was all right. And it was, you know, you felt you'd done something, but actually he suffered from frostnip for the next 2 or 3 months. Luckily not frostbite. Yeah.
So Charlie, talking of snow, do any of the jackets now have Reco in?
Have what?
I've seen the things that all the ski jackets have in. Are they
Sorry,
you know that you can get built-in, and all the ski clothes now have a built-in avalanche.
Oh yes, that's what they say you should take with you.
Ah, yeah. So it's not built into any.
I think some of them are. I'm not an expert on that. You know, because again, I'm sort of slightly old.
You sell them individually, otherwise, do you?
Yeah, they would tell you if that, but I mean, most of you here wouldn't need to worry about that.
No.
Because on Skye, and we don't get all that much snow except on, well, a Trottenish wood and so on. The only reason I mention snow conditioning is in passing, is that it's very different snow. If you get in snow conditions, you need to, well, like all the weather, you need to respect it. As we know, and step it up. But yesterday was the first walk we'd had for 4 weeks because of the weather. But yeah, did I answer your question then?
Yeah, pretty well. You said that there's the odd one that hasn't actually done.
Yeah, I mean,
by and large, people just buy them and hang them around their necks.
I mean, I think one of the recent mountain rescue advice was if you're going in snow conditions into many of the Scottish mountains, you need to take an avalanche stuff with you.
Yeah.
I've only once been avalanched, and it was, oh, I know you're all going to joke about this, because it was almost like this wonderful book, Sex in the Outdoors, but I was actually doing a number 2 in the outdoors at the time, in the Alps. And Eric was about 200 yards that way, and we were actually on a track at the time. It wasn't even that high there. And I heard this little thunderous noise, and it was only a mini avalanche. You have never seen anybody pull up their trousers quite as quickly as I did. And of course, my friend there had no sympathy at all. He just fell around laughing. But luckily, it was not a big avalanche. But it was frightening, I can tell you. Even though I joke about it. So you even have to know where you crap right as well. Sorry, I said really anyway, where was I? Anything else on so far? Yeah, so the wind and the wind chill, and people joke about it because I'm a bit of an amarak about all this sort of stuff. But you can, as Colin will know better than I can, you can tell the wind chill immediately. Like at sea, it can get cold, so cold. I mean, like Colin was telling me a few weeks ago, you never wore, what did you say about what you wore this summer, on our nice summer? You never once went out without a...
Never once went, I'm taking the coat off and never took the jumper off.
All summer you never took it. The water is much even colder, but the wind chill really adds to it in Scotland. And from now on, right through till February time, even beyond that, you know, one of my very early expeditions to the Cairngorms was in April, and we were in a thick whiteout during that time on the top of the Cairngorm Plateau there. So, you know, Scotland can be particularly hectic. Skye, you're all right, but just allow for it. And, you know, in winter, you need to have enough gear with you. Take some spare gear with you.
When was it we went up the old man of Store and had that white out?
That was on the 2nd of May.
That was on David.
2nd of May?
2nd of May.
Well, you became our heroes.
It was crazy.
Well, I mean, Scotland's like that. More than anywhere else in the UK, really.
And we were in full winter gear because it was cold and it was windy, not expecting any snow. And of course, the tourists were up there in their little pumps and light jackets and umbrellas.
Umbrellas, that was it.
So yeah, that's about
Umbrellas
preparation,
in
isn't it?
Scotland, the wind.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the sandals up there and on the Quirang and so on. Yeah. And I've actually, I mean, I've another friend and colleague of mine, Chris, who lives in the Lakes, who've done lots together, including Ian Pinn. I mean, we've had endless discussions on when you should intervene with people. Because what you don't want is for people, the mountain rescue, to spend endless time rescuing people. You know, and you've thought, oh, I should have said something to them. I have no answer for that at all. Should I go back to equipment? What's the time? We're all right. But that's exactly what I wanted, is to interrupt and come in with questions. Now, this is where Harris is sank here. So I thought I'd deal with this, because this is the honest stuff. There's actually, if I'm honest, there's more in here today than, for instance, I had yesterday. But this is actually my step it up sack. And as you can see from it, still looks fairly new. It's actually a fairly recent purchase. And just in case you think you have to spend a lot of money, this is actually I'm really pleased with it. It cost me 30 quid at sale. So it's not bad, is it, really? No. It's, like Bill Bryson, it's not waterproof though. So things about it is that if I was taking, you must tell me, if I was taking anything on Skye more than 25 litres, tell me off, will you please? Because I shouldn't be carrying on. You know, this is absolutely for all year what you should take. But this is Harris's sort of sack that he has out. I'll do them. So there's a top pocket here, which I actually do find, I am a pocket person, but that's very useful for your keys and stuff like that. Just that you need it, want access to, or whatever. Okay. This is quite useful on it because it does, even though it's black, it is reflective. This as well. I mean, I wouldn't go on the road with it, but it's reasonably reflective. It has main compartment. Well, I actually can't remember what's in here because it's more or less what I had yesterday. It's not quite right. So we've got, and I know we'll all debate what you need to take with you, but that actually is a really useful, fairly modern invention. Is a shelter, and this is for 2 folks, and we'll have a go in that in a minute. The where is it? We're not going to do. I was wanting actually, if it wasn't for COVID, we'd have had a go with this one because that would have fit most of us in. That's a 12-person shelter, and I have used that. I've used this with youth groups. I had in the Brecon Beacons, where I was with a groups of special needs youngsters, which their leader told me all about, you know, risk assessments and all that. And we went out. It was sort of, I think it was autumn or whatever. We went out and we were a bit high below the Brecon Beacons, and it got a bit hairy. So we all got in this and had our lunch, and immediately it was warm. You know, they are fantastic things, this, and you'll see how it works with this one in a minute. But that's about the biggest you can get. I've got one spreadsheet now, I've got 2 or 3 in-betweens as well, so for you 3A wanting to borrow these, this is fine. Unfortunately, it's not safe for us to use this today because of COVID. Actually, in the wilds, I think we'd have to. You know, if we had the group getting suddenly in bad conditions, whether it was COVID or not, we'd have to just risk it. And there goes your risk assessment. The leader then has to assess what they want to do. Somebody else coming in here? No. So, do have a look at it. Using toilet, yeah.
I can edit that bit out.
There's a debate in 4 season stuff. There's a bit of a debate. I mean, I have a debate. Like yesterday, I did not take this with me, and this is your extra layer. And everything all right?
Yes.
Yes, all right.
So this is actually another Paramount thing. This is actually, I think, one of the best things they use, these shirts. And you can wear it either side. That's the cool side with the velvety thing on. But it's bomber. I've had this for a year. I've got a couple of these red shirts. But this is, as a sort of coordinator or leader of a group, you know, you do need to think of, if you need to stop, you've got an emergency, you probably need an extra there, possibly for yourself, but for the casualty or whatever. And the reason I take this sort of thing rather than this, a thinner version of this, is because this is just so easy to get on, or even just to cover people with. And just adds one thinnish layer. I mean, this is my preference. Some people might prefer a thicker thing with me, but this is fairly folds up. That's actually quite a big container. It goes a bit smaller than that. I didn't actually take it with me to Portree yesterday because we all, you know, had enough, I think.
You never said we had a 2-man tent.
I didn't have that with me yesterday.
In the lump.
I knew you'd want to get in the lump with that, wouldn't you? We already had death yesterday, and talking about that, we just... This is... oh right, I should explain that when I go out in Skye, where is it? These are the sort of trousers for 2/3 of the year I wear on Skye. This is Rowan's version, and these are, they don't look like waterproof trousers, but they are. And they're just a modern version of those. They have pockets on the side for your maps, and they're very comfortable. They're just like casual trousers, really. But these are Rowan's heavier version of the barricade stuff. And this is, I have a few pairs of these, and I take these out on Skye without, if it's very cold, I might wear something underneath. But these are slightly thicker anyway. But I had a pair of these on yesterday, and I will most step it up walks. If we have a dry spell, I'd wear some ordinary lighter walking top. But for 2/3 of the time on Skye, I wear this sort of thing. And these modern versions, rather than wear, because the problem I have with this, except in the big, the big mountains, is you having to stop and put another layer over the top of it. I'm not against it, that's fine, but I just, when I already have them on, it's great, it saves so much trouble really. And the technology, and they're not cheap, but the technology of them nowadays is so much developed since the old days. Sorry? Yeah, they've got this sort of, it's rather like the Paramo stuff, it's not Gore-Tex, but it's lined waterproof stuff. I wouldn't sort of go out for a full day in the mountains necessarily with this. I'd still prefer my old-fashioned, probably Gore-Tex trousers, all those other Paramo ones in winter. But, you know, they're very good. I mean, I wear them all, as the group knows, I wear them all the time in Skye. We've been through all sorts of climates together, so that's why, sorry.
To give you an excellent example, yesterday we went for a walk in Slick
Oh, I saw that.
in Norman style, and we looked at a very large pool, sitting totally soaked.
Oh, you didn't do one of your falling over?
I don't know. In a stream, I had a pair of those on, and I had 3 miles to get back home again, and by the time I got back, I was warm and dry.
Yeah. I mean, they're the same principle as a shelter, basically.
Yeah.
They also, actually I forgot to mention the crucial thing, they are windproof. And the windproofing is the key thing. That's the jacket I got from the shop you were talking about. It is absolutely windproof, so it doesn't need to be as thick as padding. But I guess that yours is windproof as well, isn't it? Probably, is it? No. Well, mine is, I've forgotten, what's it? Pertex is the windproof stuff. Anyway, the reason I prefaced that is I did actually put these in, because these, in case you want an alternative, these are the light, oh no it's not, this is made. It's amazing the surprise you get out of your
It's just like Christmas, Charlie.
This is a lightweight anorak. And honestly, on Skye, this is a mountain equipment one. I've had this for years. And this is a lightweight Gore-Tex anorak. And I have this all the time with me. This or the black version I have 2 versions. And it's great. Like you were saying, Lorraine, this is just the same, complete windproof as well, and waterproof. And this, you could be out most day, all day. Yeah. I wouldn't take it on an expedition. Where is it? That's not it.
I was going to say talking about yourself, but don't, because the map will disappear or something.
No, that's not it either. No, don't say I didn't bring it with me.
It might be in that bag.
It's a good thing Lynn's got a shed, is all right.
It is actually, you're quite right, but don't tell her that.
It's a good thing we're not on the side of the mountain, it's a bloody storm.
Oh, here it is. This is the real mountain version of that. This has been at many big mountains with me, all around Europe and all the rest of it. This is a 3-layer Gore-Tex anorak, and this is, you know, bomb-proof and everything else. But, you know, it's quite thick, it's quite heavy, and it takes a bit more space up. And quite honestly, I have this in the car, actually, as my emergency now. I don't use it for my everyday use on the walking groups in Skye. Okay? Oh dear. Is this alright for folks?
Yeah. Oh yes.
It's like Santa's grotto.
I know it is actually. This is all, I didn't clean this from yesterday, but I know this is obvious. But that's, you know, modern flask. That's what I take with Step It Up. It has my hot liquid in for me and all the group. And I also take a small bottle of fluid just in case you need some water as well. All year. I mean, obviously in summer you may need a bit more than that. But I do, you know, the point I'm getting across is, I'm just, again, it's one of my biases. I always take some hot liquid with me. I take that all year round. And this as well. As I say, this is sort of more or less my leader's pack. I'm not sure what I did with the lighter over trousers. Picnic box, pretty obvious.
Yes, tall Christmas egg.
Well, we had Christmas cake yesterday, didn't we?
We finished it off.
We finished it off, co-op's best, or worst. Oh, this is my self-inflating sit mat. I'm not going to. It takes a bloody pain in the backside to get it down again.
Well, that's no good then, because that's what you're going to do with it.
But sit mat, there are various versions of it. Of a sit mat, which I'm sure you all know about these things. But actually, probably, if I was pushed, this would be my favoured version, because taking your point, you can put this in the back of your sack for comfort as well. It doubles as an extra comfort at the back, in your back, if you've got those sort of issues. Whereas this folds up. It's fine as a sit mat, but it folds up. And if you can stuff this down the back of this will go, and I got one in here already. I know what I have got in here somewhere. I know I've got David's emergency sheets.
Most important for a leader, yeah.
So this is my risk assessment, see. So I can phone anybody around the world. But that's the sit mats. The reason sit mats are useful, there are a number of reasons sit mats are useful, particularly if you're responsible for a group, is of course their insulation. I mean, joking apart, I would take that probably for myself, but actually this is better insulation. So if somebody has an accident, you should immediately put on layers, you put this underneath them to keep them warm. And they keep out the cold for certainly a limited time anyway. And so if you've got, or you have problems, this is a great sit mat. So it's up to you what you get on those. Right, God, there can't be much more in there. Rather like this as an extra, particularly in winter, possibly wouldn't take that in the summertime. But I do take extra gear for most of the year round. And that's an ordinary buff. And you'll notice how bright it is. That was deliberate. I put the bright one in just in case people needed to see where we were or something. So those are gloves. We were talking about gloves yesterday. Those are, again, technology-wise nowadays, these really are windproof and waterproof gloves. They're quite thin, but they're pretty warm actually, because they keep out the wind. They're not sort of winter gloves, not full winter gloves. You wouldn't sit around forever, lying on a deck chair in -4. But they're pretty good. Forgotten who made these. I don't know what that signal is, but anyway, probably means, I don't know what it means, but there you go. But that's my sort of emergency thing, and this is absolutely critical. This is a fully fledged winter buff. And this one particularly is actually my favourite. I've got various things, and it doesn't matter. But this is actually, this bit here, the black bit, is fully windproof. But buffs, I think, are one of the wonderful modern things. I tend to wear them when I take the dog out, because rather than scarves, because these just go straight over your head. But this doubles as a hat as well. So if somebody has an accident when you're out, they're very useful, these, to keep them warm. All the temperature escaping out the top of your head and so on. Okay, emergencies? We haven't finished yet. We've got is this the COVID bag? Yeah, this is the COVID bag with masks, fluid, because if I'm going to do first aid or just see to a casualty, I'd have to think of covering my mouth up. That's liquid, which is actually quite useful for your first aid anyway, never mind about COVID. So you've got ready-made masks here and so on and so forth. So that's been in since the beginning of COVID. The winter crucial, because this is the torch, right? And the spare batteries in a solid container. So the torch doesn't switch itself on. Those soft containers you have, and you suddenly realise, oh God, we've no battery left. So this is the one I've had all over the place, or similar. And again, that is crucial for about half of the year on Skye, really, just because of the buffer zone, just in case, you're out there and you don't have any light. Just to show you how that's developed over the years, I brought you 2 examples of old mining lamps. When you think they were underground in the total darkness, that's an iron ore miner's lamp. Not a coal mine, because it would explode with the gases in a coal mine. So you have a wick in there, and the oil in the middle here. And that actually was given to my father by an iron ore miner because of the rescue work he'd helped with and my grandfather had. This actually is a safety lamp, and I just have to remind myself the history of these, if I can find it. So one of the interesting things about these was that the first version of this was in 1816. This is actually from 1880 onwards. And even George Stephenson of the railway firm had a hand in some of the tweaking of these tools. So, in case you think walking is a gentle pursuit, my grandfather, Charles Harris, also, in May 1910, in Wellington Pit, there was a big explosion down the pit. And Wellington Pit, you know, all the fuss at the moment about opening another pit in Cumbria. Well, Wellington Pit went 5 miles under the sea, and I won't tell you the whole story because I'm in the process of writing it up at the moment. But basically, he was in St John's ambulance, and he was a voluntary pit doctor. And he went down after the first explosion, and then the pit was closed temporarily for quite a few months before it became so-called safe again. And then he had, as I call it, a walk under the sea for 5 miles. From the September onwards, he had to retrieve 136 bodies and do the autopsy on all of them. And he kept going, and that was the sort of lamp he'd have had with him at the time, because it changes colour when the gases are around. And nowadays, we have whatever I've done with that lamp. It's all reduced to that sort of thing. And you get rechargeable ones, they cost quite a lot. This wasn't cheap. But it's good, it's a very good thing. They do have much cheaper versions of those. But again, like your other stuff, if you're certainly out with the group in serious stuff, I mean, I always carry a torch at this time of year in Scotland and elsewhere for that matter. Okay? What else? I can't have much else in it. Now this is my version of the I couldn't get the mint cake. Couldn't find it on Skye at the moment, so I've kept the old tin I've got. I'm going to look for it. Probably internet. But this is my emergency, so I have a picnic box, but this is my emergency food. As some of the group I sort of responsible for know, that the policy is, and I don't entirely keep that myself, but the reason I often have mint cake in my sack is because I can't stand the stuff. And you only eat it in an emergency. I have to say these glucose tablets are rather similar to that. I wouldn't choose to have glucose tablets, but they're really good emergency sugar bumps and food and nutrition. So those you can get from Boots. And I have this is where I fail because I always have a couple of bars of chocolate just in case. But this is actually my emergency supply, which doesn't appear when we're out walking. You just have to remember that sometimes the bars of chocolate go way over the sell-by date. Oh no, we haven't got one, but this is that's toilet paper. In case anybody's caught short, including myself. And finally, and we could do a whole afternoon, couldn't we, on first aid, which I'm not going to do, but that's the first aid kit. That's, yeah, my bigger one of the ones I've got. And so you've got in here, I mean, I don't know whether anybody wants to ask what I have in here, I won't get the whole thing out. One of the crucial things is a good pair of scissors, because you can use all sorts of tape and everything else. And the basics of the first aid, which I've done over the years, is got more basic really. You need to take immediate action. But basically, again, you will notice in my full anorak style that this is waterproof. So I don't take, you know, one of the ones you can get off the shelf in Boots. For this sort of conditions, this is quite useful because, you know, even when you take it out first, it's done. Any questions about that?
Where's the standard lamp?
Sorry?
Where's the standard lamp? It's like a mirror.
Yeah. I know, it's great actually. I'm quite impressed how much I got in here.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I haven't finished yet.